Good afternoon, everyone. We will begin. This is the Servant Leader Speak on the 30th of July 2019. This is our 10th show. We began on the 1st of July, and this is our 10th show as we wrap up this month. And it is wonderful to begin these broadcasts, to have engage persons in the broadcast. Persons have been calling from all over the not only the country but the world. We've had calls from Europe and from Canada, from the United States, and so the broadcast, we are pleased what the Lord is doing in this regard. We are going to get started. We will be talking about the Josiah Institute for Leadership and Public Policy. Our guest today is Dr. Sandra Smith, who will be joining me in just a minute. We are going to talk about all the elements of the Josiah Institute. She's going to talk about her career, what it is she's been doing, and how she qualifies to do this great work in this Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Let's say a word of prayer, and then we are going to go live with our interview with Dr. Smith and have a wonderful conversation. Let us bow our heads. May the words of our mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer, in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. And so we are back with this 10th show. And as we get ready to conclude the month, we have our special guest for today, Dr. Sandra Smith, who is going to be joining us for a wonderful interview as we talk about the Josiah Institute for Leadership and Public Policy. Dr. Smith, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, that's good. You know, as we tried to get you on camera, that did not work out so well. The technology is doing what it wants today, but we are going to get this done because this is important, what we're talking about. So how are you today?
I'm wonderful.
That's
Thank
good.
you for asking.
Yes. Well, let me just say something about you. The fact that you are a you are a career civil servant. You're a nurse. You was a nurse. You've worked in, as I say, the public service. You're a preacher of righteousness. And now you have retired, and you've been last year, 2018, appointed as the president of the Josiah Institute for Leadership and Public Policy. Tell our audience a little bit about who you are. Sometimes when people have these great appointments, people like to say, this person doesn't qualify. What makes... I wouldn't ask that question because I'm more impressed with you than you are yourself in terms of your qualification to monitor and to run the Josiah Institute for Leadership and Public Policy. Who is Sandra Smith?
Well, good afternoon again. Good afternoon to those who are tuned in and who will be listening from wherever. Sandra Smith entered the nursing profession at 18 years rather, in 1976. Worked in PMH Hospital until 1999.
Wow.
Had the privilege of working with some of the first patients that were diagnosed with HIV and AIDS, and worked there for a while when nobody wanted to work with them, actually, when people were afraid to work with them. And I worked, and then about 1999, I was transferred to the Ministry of Health. And I worked there until 2011 when I retired. And I took early retirement because I had made a promise to myself when I came into nursing that I would do 60 years or 30 years, whichever came first. 30 years.
30 years or age 60?
Came first.
Okay.
But the thing about it, I stayed on an extra 4 years because I decided that I wanted to get me a PhD. And I came to the conclusion that you cannot do a PhD on government pension. Okay. So I worked an additional 4 years so that I could complete my PhD. I do have a PhD with a double major, one in organizational leadership and the other in human services administration.
You were telling me earlier about some other degrees that you have relating to public policy.
I have Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. I have a Master's of Arts in Library and Information Services. So actually, I'm a trained librarian. And then I have a Master's of Arts in Public Policy.
Okay.
And Public Administration, Public Policy.
So tell me, before we go to the public policy, how important is that in your job, or was in your job as a civil servant or working in the Ministry of Health?
Policy is very important. Most of what you do in healthcare, most of what you do in the society, particularly in government, is governed by policy. Legislative policy, laws that were passed in Parliament and enacted throughout the various governments, organizations. But policy is established so that you can carry out your work and function according to the rule of law, what it says. Take, for instance, in healthcare, there's a policy that says that all children, pregnant mothers, and the senior citizens are entitled to free primary health care. And so once that law was passed, then and when I say free health care, that's in the government sector, the public sector. So whenever you go to a clinic and you're a school child, you're a pregnant woman, you're an older person, the nurse does not have the right to refuse you care. The people at the registration window does not have the right to charge you. And notice I said basic primary health care, to charge you to see the doctor. Because that policy, that regulation, that law, that piece of legislation was passed down to say that you can get that care.
Let me ask another question, because later on we will talk about the Josiah's offering of training to the government for public servants or persons who work in the public sector. The public policy, persons who work in civil service, they need knowledge on public policy. Is that where government policies start, or does it start with the politicians?
The thing about it, how do you decide that you need a policy? The first step in the policy process, or the policy making process, is to recognize that you have a problem.
Okay.
Once you recognize you have a problem, then you need to seek about how are we going to solve this problem.
So that starts in the public sector, on the job for public servants.
That starts out of the needs of the people.
In the community.
In the community. The people have a problem. There's a problem that's going to affect the people. And once that problem is large enough or big enough to get the attention of those persons who are in power, then something is done. We had incidents of measles. That's a problem in the community. And once that problem surfaces, that it affects enough people, an outcry is made, and then the politicians go to work to see how best, upon the advice.
Okay.
Upon the advice of the experts, of the technical experts.
In the government, within the civil service.
Within the civil service, as well as the, because this thing now, you should be moving towards public-private partnerships, private sector partnerships. And we also realize that not everybody in the government or the civil service know everything. There are some folk in the private sector who know some things too. They are experts in their own fields. So if something comes up, there should be a consultation between public sector and private sector people to come to a solution to solve the problem.
Wow, that sounds like we need to be creating a greater collaboration among both the public sector and private sector in terms of how we solve problems in the community then.
There should be.
Wow.
There should be.
Before I ask you the next question, I want to thank some of those who are coming online. Apostle Moxie, Terry Moxie, Elijah Cooper, Helen Williams, Amal Henfield, Coralie Brathwaite. Thank you so much for joining us. We're talking with Dr. Sandra Smith, the president of the Josiah Institute for Leadership and Public Policy. She's also a preacher of righteousness. She's the host of Morning Manna. And so while you're talking to us, you can go online, our website, thejosiahinstitute.com, thejosiahinstitute.com, so that you can see some of the information regarding the Josiah Institute. Before we go to public sector training, let's get back to the Josiah Institute, Dr. Sandra. What do you think are the most important aspects of the need for the Josiah Institute in the Bahamas?
Well, I think one important area is the training of future leaders and those who are in leadership positions and don't know the first thing about leadership. Josiah Institute would play a pivotal role in training persons to assume leadership roles in the government, as well as, I dare say, outside of the government.
You haven't gotten that degree very recently about organizational leadership, and I must say that we have at least 4 or 5 persons within the Josiah Institute with leadership in organizational leadership, organizational management, I think technological management, all of these, technological leadership, all of these are important as we go to a new trend of how we do business in the world now. So organizational, you're saying the importance of this, what we do with the Josiah Institute. How important is our work for changing how people think about going forward to leadership?
It's important. Unless the mindset is changed, we would repeat old patterns. And when you repeat old patterns, you get the same outcomes. And if you look around in our country today, persons are calling themselves leaders. But what are the outcomes like? They're not moving ahead. If they're moving ahead, they're not moving ahead with clarity or guidance, having not done sufficient research to support their decision making. So it's very important, changing that mindset, getting people to know that there's more to leadership than just standing up and saying, I'm a leader. Leadership involves good decision making.
You mentioned the word research. How important is that, though, in going forward? In regards to leadership, you begin to talk about it.
Research is very important. Research, I had occasion to listen to some of the budget debates. And when you talk about research, research produces information, produces evidence, statistics. How could you get up and give a speech and you can say some of the people, but you don't know exactly how many people? Some of the people could be 2 people.
That wouldn't be credible then.
No, that would not be.
So it's important for people to speak.
You want your presentations, you want your decision making to be informed and boosted by statistics. What are the numbers saying? What supports your decision? Why did you do that? You can't lead based on feelings. Mind you, there's a place for that. But most of your leadership and your decision making should not be based upon how you feel and what the majority of the people are saying. You see, sometimes the majority of the people may not be the majority of the people, but they are the people who can make the loudest noise. And you make a decision that affects the people who are making the loudest noise, but they are not the greater amount of people.
Do you think that is common?
Sorry, go ahead.
Do you think that is common? A lot of leaders or public persons who are speaking, that they aren't getting the basic research that's necessary on what they are talking about?
A lot of it is common. From my time in the government, we do descriptive writing. We tell a story we write something based on a story, but there's no evidence to say, why should I give you my money? Why should I support what you're doing when we have about 365,000 people here, and you're going to come and tell me some people showed up to the clinic with a rash, so we need, and I'm making it simple. Some people showed up to the clinic with a rash, and so we need monies to treat this rash, where in reality, when you take the numbers of persons that showed up to the clinic or showed up elsewhere, it's not even a quarter of the 365,000 people.
So
it's a 0.00 something of the 365,000, which does not warrant perhaps an intervention to the level that you are suggesting.
I guess, well, research is obviously important. As you were saying, if someone has a rash, as you said, that person, it might have been a very isolated case. Whereas research will tell you that was isolated. That person just came from a particular country and they had brought that, and that was the reason why they had that particular rash, or that was spread between probably their family members or persons they came in contact with. That is what research would do, right?
Well, yeah, but and see what would happen. You would not rush when you do the research. And we're talking about that. Several kinds of research. There's the academic research,
okay,
and then there's the research where people call research, where you look through the news and you gather information, but you don't look for numbers. You just find information.
Okay.
And so when you find that this one person came from this far country, you won't jump to conclusions. You won't make sweeping generalizations. Oh, so there's an outbreak in the country. How can there be an outbreak in the country when you've gathered your information, which you've done an environmental scan, and you found that only one person has this thing? How could one person be an outbreak?
Yeah, that does sound familiar. Being in the media myself, people are very sensual. They try to be very. They try to be outrageous anyway. They're outrageous in regards to saying what is happening when it's really not happening to the level that it is happening. But I just wanted to touch on that matter of research, as the Josiah Institute will be a research center, will be a research and development institute that focuses on these issues relating to national development. What I want to do, though, let's go back to the importance of training for public sector workers. Now, just as a note of information before you go there, the the Josiah Institute for Leadership, for our listeners, was founded since 2017. We declared our charter last year, August 8, 2018, and so we have presented to the government an offering of training for public sector workers in conjunction with our partner, the American University in Washington, D.C., for public sector workers. Dr. Smith, how and why is it important for training for public sector workers?
I've said it before, I'll say it again. How can you work efficiently if you don't know what you're doing, if you've not been properly trained?
So what levels, though? What levels of training that's necessary?
Anybody entering the civil service should have some training in leadership. But of course, our civil service, most of it is do as I say do, and that's the bureaucratic. We're still working under the bureaucratic model, where persons are not taught to think. The instruction comes from the top, and you just do it. But that has shifted. The employee now has more autonomy. So that if I see that I need to do something, if something is wrong, I don't have to wait to tell my manager that something is wrong. I take my initiative and fix it. Instead, would we say, that's not my job? You can always tell the people who have leadership training, versus the people who are trained under the old system of subordinate and superior. The subordinates always say, that's not my job. The persons who are trained as leaders, and when I say from the bottom up, you are trained as a leader in your sphere of influence.
There are
I work as a maid.
Go ahead.
I work as a maid, but I'm still a leader. Because as a leader, then I can show my initiative. I can take charge of whatever I'm given to do. If something is out of order, I can fix that without sending a memo to 10 people and saying, the sink is leaking. What do I do? To get that memo, come down to tell you to call the plumber, when if I know that I'm a leader right at this level that I am, I can call the plumber. I have a leak. And then I can say to somebody who is my supervisor, well, I call the plumber because we had a leak, which takes out all the 9 other people that in the bureaucratic model you have to go to.
Well, that is interesting because we've always had complaints, right, Dr. Smith, in regards to, everybody complains sometime about government workers. Well, they can't get things done. Things are taking so long. You have begun to talk about the bureaucracy where you have to actually leadership development training in the public sector begin to eliminate or will eliminate a lot of bureaucracy within the service.
When people begin to realize that we don't need 10 steps. I don't have to, under flying steel, go to my unit supervisor in writing. My unit supervisor goes to her head of department. Her head of department goes to his director. Or her director go to the FAS, the FA and the permanent secretary. We're not saying that you go and you do what you please.
Okay.
But in leadership, there's a relationship that levels the playing field. That I can come and have a one-on-one talk with you and say to you, I think we can make this product better. I don't have to write 10 letters.
But the point of... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, the point of government service, you've been there and you know the bureaucracy, is that as you say, you cannot do what you want to do, but you have to document what you do. Right? That is important.
Whatever you do, you have to document. It's important always to leave a paper trail. One thing in research, what is important in research, what helps to define the validity of a study is its ability to be replicated.
Okay.
So if I did what you did, I must get the same results that you got. And so likewise, in any organization, anyone in leadership, you should have a paper trail. So that others, if you leave for continuity, especially if you were to leave that position today and somebody else comes in, why do they have to start from scratch trying to figure out what it was that you did? Your notes will be there. And the thing about it is, when you're a leader and you're leaving a department, you really shouldn't have to bring in anybody from elsewhere, because as a leader, you would have trained the people working with you to do your job. Leaders are not afraid to allow people to do their jobs, because that's what leaders do. Leaders build up people. Leaders procreate. You know what the word procreate means?
Yes, sir. You know, at least you're having a baby, right? So you have to produce another level of leadership if you are leading in the way that you should.
Exactly.
Let me read something real quickly from the Josiah Institute website in terms of the introduction of the Josiah Institute. The Josiah Institute for Leadership and Public Policy is a private and independently owned yet quasi-nonprofit educational forum and learning community seeking to advance leadership protocols in both private and public sector agency through ethical wisdom. How important is ethical wisdom as we talk about doing something different in the world in regards to leadership?
One thing about leadership, and I want people to hear me well, good leaders have integrity. Good leaders, corruption is not named among them. You know, there was a saying, friends, family, and lovers, good leaders are fair.
Okay.
And so if you are operating in ethical wisdom, you would not be taking anything from under the table. And if I was in church, I would say, I feel a priest coming on, but I'm not in church.
but you have to be sad. When we're talking about leadership going forward, what the Josiah Institute is expected to do in terms of training, this is important to train persons and the need for persons going, and I'm going to let you follow up on that, going towards national leadership, the need to put in those values of, you said, integrity, transparency, accountability. That is an important part of what this institution is supposed to be doing.
And the thing about it, Ali, is that leaders would allow people to carry out their task unfettered. If I'm a good leader, I won't ask my associate to lie for me. I won't ask my associate to cover up for me, to do this, and then pretend I know nothing about it.
Wow. Is that happening in our government?
Sorry, go ahead.
Is that happening commonly in this government? I mean, within the sphere of government?
What do you think? You're more in the political field than me, but I'm just telling you what good leaders ought not to do or ought to do. You could tell me whether it's happening. Another thing, when good leaders, when they make a mistake, they own up to it. I made a mistake. I was wrong.
They're prepared to say that.
They don't throw it on somebody else. They don't allow somebody else to take the rap for them. And they look out for the people that work for them. They push them. We have this thing that it's only about me. Only me should climb the ladder and everybody else should stay down. No. If I'm a good leader, I'm pulling up my people behind me. I want to prepare my people so that they can take or access the best opportunities available to them. That's what good leaders do.
That's true. That's true. Let me read something else from the Josiah Institute. And this is something you are talking about now. And from there, we're going to go to just the request that we've made to the government, or the offering. This is something on the second page about us on the Josiah Institute. For those listening, the website, www.thejosiahinstitute.com. It said, faced with the reported challenges of integrity, lack of transparency and accountability, the need to improve organizational talent management systems locally and abroad across the world, there is an urgent need to provide both awareness and training through motivational courses, educational workshops, seminars, developmental programs and courses to help persons in leadership and those interested in serving the nation refocus on high ethical standards and behaviors. Do you believe, sometimes they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but do you believe that training put in place even at this point, despite reported challenges of integrity and lack of transparency, do you think systematic motivational classes, educational seminars will change how people in leadership operate in terms of their behavior?
I think training would do it. I'm a firm believer that there's good in everybody, and no one started out bad. Everybody had good intentions. So with motivation and going back and speaking to these people and trying to draw from the good, and I still believe that even though they may have veered off into a path of corruption, there's still some good in them. After all, they're good to their families. They're good to their friends. They do kind things to people who they care about. And so there's always some good in persons. So training could do it. Training is never too late.
Probably you think there's a disconnect. As you say, people do good things to people who they know and who they will get something back from. Probably the need is for them to connect, that whoever they serve, it is important to do so. I guess it's part of what the Bible says. In terms of the disconnect, that I don't know her. It doesn't matter to me. They live in Baintown, they live in Garden Hills. I mean, they're not really my family, friends, or lovers. So we get right back to the point of training persons that if you're serving in the nation, it doesn't matter who you know, but that you have to serve all people. Is that the basis?
It shouldn't matter.
It shouldn't matter.
It shouldn't matter who you know. Leaders are not curry favors. Good leaders, rather. They help all, as many as they can help. And if they can't help you, they point you to people who can help you. So my grandmother used to have a saying, what was good for the goose is good for the gander. If you're in leadership in a country, your efforts should be towards the greater good for as many persons as possible. Not some people, not a few. Your efforts should be geared towards the many. And some people just don't know that. Because I've conducted leadership workshops and mentorship workshops, and some of the things, basic things they said, oh, we didn't know that. And we think that when we put these people in positions that they know everything. No.
So we don't take for granted that because people have a degree that they know how to live.
Exactly, especially if that degree is not in leadership. And even, I'll tell you something. I went to the University of the West Indies to get my bachelor's degree. We did a certificate in administration. And there were people in class with me. But when I came home, and they came home, they didn't put in practice anything that they learned. And I'm like, wow. They got the degree, but it seemed like they only went to school for the lunch.
Wow, that is interesting. Go ahead.
That training should have prepared them to take, and I say nursing because I was in the nursing field, that training at the University of the West Indies should have prepared them to take nursing to the next level. But they came home and they fell right back into the old rut, the old way of doing business. And we have to be careful about that. That is why you can't train some and don't train all.
Wow.
Especially, and you have to train. If you're going to train, you have to train those persons who are responsible for the decision making.
Let's just touch base. Go ahead. No, you were finishing a point about the decision making, people needing to be trained, and I think I was going in that very direction so you could finish this answer. When you are training, I mean, we have made an offer, and people can go on our website. There's a lot of information that's available because we are an institute. We have applied to NACOB, which is the National Accreditation Agency, Council of the Bahamas, in order to be a training agency or a legitimate registered institute offering courses in training. So it's not just an institute, a talk institute, but an institute who has registered to do what it is we do in regards to training, in regards to offering courses, not only to the government, but the private sector. So in regards to the the levels of people that has to be trained, and I think we touched this and you were just going there. The persons that need to be trained has to be people, as you say, that makes the decision making. You also indicated that you can't train some and not train all, but with the government having 25,000 employees, how do we sow a seed? And that's our idea. How do we sow a seed in terms of offering training that will make some level of difference within the government?
Well, how do we sow a seed?
Well, I'm saying that because, as you say, you can't train. They might not be able to train all 25,000. But the point is, there has to be training visas because the civil service is the people who are offering service to the government and operating on behalf of the people. I mean, if you can't train them all, how do you make some level of impact in training?
Like I said, I would train those who are responsible for the decision making at the highest level.
Okay.
But of course, once you target these people, they may feel that they don't need training because they've been, people get comfortable. People get used to doing the wrong things. And sometimes they think that they know it, but the way they're doing it is not right. But you have to target these people at the top.
So let me ask you something. Go ahead.
Perhaps offer a refresher course.
Okay.
Not so much a basic leadership course, but even provide mentorship to some of these people. To walk with them, to say, okay, you've done it this way. Let's try it this way. One of the things I noticed while employed was that people had a lot of problems handling conflict with employees. They could not get them to work. And they would either ostracize those persons who, let me say, for want of a better word, misbehaving or not cooperating or not showing up to work. They can't handle them. So you put on workshops to teach them or train them how to handle the difficult, yes, that's the word I was thinking about, the difficult employee. And to realize that everybody is salvageable.
Wow.
How to get these people to work? You may need to mentor these leaders.
Oh, I love that.
You may need to coach them. And for persons who don't know, mentoring and coaching are two different things.
I like what you are saying regarding everybody may not need the same level of training. As you're saying, some need mentoring, some need coaching, some might be needing just absolute training, big courses that helps to put them down the road. Now, the Josiah Institute for Leadership motto is training leaders for good governance, which means in the public sector, in the private sector, in public life, training leaders for good governance. In any institution, there's a need for governance. So wherever you are, whatever environment, there is a need for leadership, and in that leadership, there is need for training, improvement, coaching, mentoring, as you say. How do we push it now to the next level?
Pardon me?
How do we push it to the next level? I'm talking about for the nation.
There's something called buy-in.
Okay.
Unless you get buy-in from the powers that be, nothing will ever happen. People have to see the need for the training. People have to recognize that I have a deficit. I have a weakness. I need to be strengthened in this area. I have this deficit. I need to be strengthened. And once I see that I need to be strengthened, I need this training, then I will do what it takes to afford this training, to get this training. Unless the people in authority, and I want to call them responsible for decision making, whether it's the minister, whether it's the PS, whether it's the ministry responsible for training, unless they see the need, they won't employ you or anyone else to fix the problem.
Now you mentioned public-private partnership to make that happen earlier.
It doesn't matter what kind of partnership you have, Ali. If I don't see the need for something, I'm not going to buy it. And we who are selling programs, and I say selling, we have to make them understand that there's a need. We have to get their buy-in.
Get their buy-in.
That there's a need. Now, some people, because some things are free, they'll come.
And sometimes just to get the day off. Which
and for whatever reason, yes, to get the day off, but to say whole-scale blanket, you want to pay for a program, the people who are spending that money, they have to see the necessity for the training. And I know that the Prime Minister at one time had spoken about public sector reform, but
yes,
nothing has happened with that. And if you're talking about public sector reform, it speaks to a change of mindset, a change of behaviors, a change of coming out of our comfort zones, a change of realizing that we can't do business the way we normally do business. It can't be business as usual. And we have to be competitive. And leadership training allows you to see the areas where you can be competitive. And leadership training helps you to maintain your competitive edge.
I was told, Dr. Smith, well, number one, I think last year or the year before, there was $150,000 that was appointed for training for public sector workers. Like someone said, that $150,000 really only gave about $6 per person. I don't know how much training can you do. You can barely buy a salad with $6. But the second matter is, even as we seek to cause the government to buy in, I was told that digitization of the public sector is the primary or very first thing that they are concentrating on. But one of our partners in American University says digitization most time fails if you don't do training first. So even if we are concentrating, as you said earlier, whether they are really interested in training, if you do not concentrate on training your personnel to put your digitization or your equipment or your technology in first, who is going to operate and take care of your technology if you have not done the training?
And that would be a waste of money, time, manpower. If you don't train, you have to train so that people can realize why are we doing this? What is the importance of digitization? How would this affect us? How would this make service more efficient if they don't understand that?
I quite agree. Go ahead. You was finishing your point. You know what? And we're gonna. I think we have about 5 or 10 more minutes. But what I want to say really quickly is this, and I'm supposed to bring on Dr. Tobias from the American University, and we're going to discuss a little bit more about the actual courses. But while you're here, as you know, we have 4 leadership development courses that we are offering not only to the government for public sector workers, because the American University trains federal workers, the workers in the government of the United States. And as for some people do not realize that entry level in the United States government is sometimes a bachelor's and master's degree. Now that doesn't always happen in our environment. But the fact that when you have a master's degree, you could still not have training in leadership development. So what we are offering now is 4 levels of training through the American University to public sector workers and private sector workers in the country, where these training will be done right here in Nassau, so that persons can see the changes or the behavioral changes in their work. And what is so interesting with these courses, is that the training will happen here. People can go back on the job and come back to the training when the time is scheduled, and they can be able to relate to the training and relate to what's happening on the job for the benefit of their employer, which is either the government or private sector. And so even tomorrow we will talk with Dr. Tobias. Hopefully he'll be online with us, but I will talk a little bit more of those 4 levels of training, which is team leaders. That's one training program that we have. Supervisory leadership, mid-level managers leadership program, and the senior level leaders. As you indicated, sometimes people in senior level don't believe that they need any training, but there is a senior executive level program that we offer for persons in the vicinity of the permanent secretaries, the undersecretaries. These are high levels within the government service, but there are training that gives them the new globalized if you need to work in globalized environment, as we are trying to take a lot of our people to, or we're trying to go to WTO. We have the EPA that's part of the convention that we've signed on to. So training for public sector workers to be able to operate in those environments is what the Josiah Institute has brought to the Bahamas with our partners, the American University Key Leadership Program. And tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We'll itemize some of these. We'll be providing some of the summary in terms of each program, so persons interested in these programs could decide whether they want to take those courses. And I know that you indicated that earlier, and the importance of it. Probably again you can indicate and reiterate what the importance of these levels of training, why persons at different level of decision making, it is important that they are familiarized and always being encouraged to go further in their work and do better in their service.
When you look at those in the higher echelon of the organization, let's call them the senior leadership.
Okay.
These people are responsible for the strategic direction of the organization.
Of the ministry.
When we talk about any organization.
Yes.
When you talk, because we can't limit it to just the ministry, the government organizations, because remember, as long as they're operating under the bureaucratic model, their agenda is given to them by the politicians.
Okay.
And ministries' agendas can change with every election. But any organization that wants to be sustainable must consider where it's going, its strategic direction. Where will we be in the next 10, 15 years? I was listening to something this morning, and they were talking about Blockbusters versus Netflix. Blockbusters is eating dust because they didn't have anybody who were strategic in developing their strategic direction.
Okay.
No one with foresight. So the senior people should have foresight. Where do we want to go? Where do we want to take the organization? How far are we from the organization's vision? And you know, what do we need to do? Do we need to go left some more, right some more? How do we tweak it? Senior management. Middle management provides support in galvanizing the persons under the senior level to carry out and to ensure that the mission of the organization is being met. They are the spotters. If I see something going wrong, if I see that we are not on track for achieving our goals, I don't sit there and say that's not my job. I'm supposed to then now in my meetings with my senior level people say, well, you know, I've been noticing this and we are our trajectory, we're not on the path to meeting our goals. That's middle management. They are responsible also for providing what I call sessions, but well, it's a bad choice of word, but
familiarization.
they are responsible for ensuring that the organization, as far as the employees, grow, which may be training and retraining, opportunities to meet with other organizations, those kinds of things. Team leaders these are the persons at the shop floor level. They are responsible for motivating the employees to work. They know their employees better than anyone. If somebody comes in and they're looking a little droopy, team leader's supposed to go, what's going on? Somebody is sick. How can I help you to do your job better today?
Boy, that's important.
Team leaders have direct influence on motivating the employees. So your team leaders need to be on the ball as far as managing people goes.
Well, that's part of the 4 levels that we have. Team leaders, and as you say, if you don't have team leaders that are going to inspire people that when they're becoming tired, they're becoming weak, hey, this is where we have to go. This is where we have to go. You talk about mid-level managers, supervisors, the senior people, the senior level or senior executive who has to know when it's time for new training, when it's time for familiarization. So that is important. But if those persons aren't aware as to when these things happen, then as you indicated, the organization is going to begin to lax. Because you need to be able to see where the organization is going and say, hey, we need to come back to the center, or we need to go down left or go down right, as you were indicating.
Absolutely.
Well, Doc, I mean, it's wonderful talking to you. When we talk tomorrow, we're going to talk to Dr. Tobias. We may get him online from Washington, and he will talk a little bit more about the courses, what will be the benefit. As you indicated, he will possibly indicate what the benefit of all these levels. We want to thank you. Doyle Roberts is on the line. Dr. McCartney is on the line. I think I see Kermit Agaro is on the line. Thank you so much for joining us. Doc, any final words as we wrap up the program today?
I just want to thank you for having me on. I look forward to the Josiah Institute coming fully on stream so that we can provide these invaluable services to the people of the Bahamas and indeed throughout the Caribbean. Leadership is crucial for sustainability, economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, educational, whatever sphere you want to consider.
Yes.
Leadership, good leadership. And when we talk about leadership, we must always preface it with good leadership.
With good leadership.
Because like I said previously, a gang leader is a leader.
I love that.
But what is he doing? He's looking out for his organization. He has an agenda. But is it in the benefit for the greater masses? No. It's a benefit for his gang. So when we talk about leadership, we should say good leadership. Well, and I want to just apologize that I was not able to come on live. I was disappointed.
Me too.
That technology will fail us.
Yes, but as we grow in the program, as I say, this is the 10th program, and we've got plenty ways to go. So we will be able to get you on live. And probably in the studio, in my office, and we can talk a little bit more about the program. But we just wanted to make sure we introduce the Josiah Institute. It has been in operation for a little over a year and some, and the charter was last August, so we are coming up at least on the 1 year of the charter, of the signing of the charter of the Josiah Institute for Leadership. So it is good. It's good to have you, your knowledge, your wealth of experience in this regard. I want to invite people before you go, just to go online, thejosiahinstitute.com, be able to see the information that we have there. They can be able to call any one of us, get information. And tomorrow we are going to go to the next level. We're talking about the courses, how persons can get involved with the course. So Dr. Smith, thank you so much for joining me by phone. And it's been a pleasure.
And again, you're welcome. Have a good afternoon.
You too. Blessings on you. Yes, that was Dr. Sandra Smith. She was joining us live. We were trying to get her online. That did not happen. Technology fails us at every turn sometimes. That's when we have gone to the next level in regards to technology, want to do everything by Wi-Fi. But she is Dr. Sandra Smith, the appointed president of the Josiah Institute for Leadership and Public Policy in the Bahamas. She is serving as the president. She's a wonderful, educated, very experienced regarding public service, public planning. She worked in the Ministry of Public Health in terms of a lot of public affairs. As I said, I want to invite you to go online, the josiahinstitute.com. We have an extensive amount of persons who are itinerant teachers who will be involved with the Josiah Institute, who will be teaching. We have a faculty, we have advisors who are involved, who are part of institutions like the University of the Bahamas, the American University. And so when you go online, you will see some of those persons involved. Dr. Robert Tobias is part of our partner in the American University. And our Bahamian advisors, Dr. Chris Curry, Dr. Antoinette Darling, Patricia Simonet, Dr. Anthony Hamilton, Michelita Colley, Mr. Prescott Smith, Kendall Colbert, KCX, Dr. Hastings Johnson, Dr. Amanda Lundy Ferguson, Mrs. Karen Morse. Part of our executive team is in addition to Dr. Smith, we have Dion Pratt, Dr. Agnes Glinton, Mrs. Willa Mae Stewart Hamilton, Shami Farrington Austin is our legal advisor. I am the humble chairman of the Institute. It was a vision that the Lord gave quite some years ago in terms of an academic platform to being able to educate the Bahamian people on the Constitution, how the Constitution should be organized, should be taught in schools throughout the community. If we are going to change how we lead, how we govern in the community, how we operate on every level, we're going to have to learn the values of transformational servant leadership, succession planning. We're going to have to do the things that is necessary in order for us to go to the next level. Judy Droll, thank you so much for coming in on this very last end of the program. We appreciate everyone who have joined us from Grand Bahama and from Canada, also those right here in New Providence. Tomorrow we are going to have Dr. Robert Tobias with us from the American University. We will talk about each of those 4 levels of training. We will discuss every aspect for those persons wanting to get a American University certification. American University certification in leadership development. You can use this certification anywhere in the world, and it's available right here in Nassau. So tomorrow, 2 o'clock, when we talk, we will discuss what are the benefits of all of those. If you have any other questions, you can go ahead online, the josiahinstitute.com. You can send us an email, josiahinstitutebahamas@gmail.com, or info@thejosiahinstitute.com. info@thejosiahinstitute.com or josiahinstitutebahamas@gmail.com. We will send you information. We will send you a form if you need to fill it out if you want to get involved in one of these classes. We're expecting in the fall to actually offer several cohorts. So if you want to get involved, please give us a call. Thank you so much for joining us. We thank you for your time, those of you who stayed online and visit with us. Again, the website, thejosiahinstitute.com. All information is there available for you to partake or give us a call. Thank you for your time. God bless and keep safe the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Good evening.